Hi everyone, welcome to Tech with Easy. Here we are going to talk about the MCQ question asked in AWS Solution Architect exam prep series. Here we are having a question according to the topics EC2, EBS, VPC, ELB, auto scaling, all these topics. We are going to cover the questions of these topics in this video. So let's start. The first question is, you have a workload that require 50,000 consistent IOPS for data that must be durable. What combination of the following steps do you need? Use Amazon EBS optimized instance, use instance store, use a provisioned IOPS SSD volume, and use a magnetic volume. So you can take your time, pause the video to choose your answer. So the answer is A and C. Use a EBS optimized instance or provisioned IOPS. Why? Because a dedicated network bandwidth for the storage IOPS we are having EBS. Okay, and for the volume delivered the highest and the most consistent IOPS we can go with the provisioned. Okay. Which of the following are the characteristics of the auto-scaling service on AWS? Send a traffic to the healthy instance, responds to changing condition by adding or terminating a Amazon EC2 instance, collect and tracks a matrix and sets alarms, deliver a push notification, launches notification from a specified Amazon machine image, enforce a minimum number of running Amazon EC2 instance. So answer is option B, E and F. Why? Because response of changing the condition by adding or terminating Amazon EC2 instance. This is we can do with the help of auto-scaling service. We can launch our instances in AMI and we can enforce a minimum number of running EC2 instance. Okay. So auto-scaling adds or terminates the instance in response to conditions and launches them in a specified AMI and enforce a group minimum instance count or something. So sending a traffic to the healthy instance in a load balancer function and metric alarm tracking belongs to the CloudWatch. So A, C and D are not the right answer for this question. Elastic load balancing supports which of the following types of load balancer? Cross region, internet facing, interim, STTP, internal, and HTTPS using secure socket layer. So cross region load balancer is giving internet facing. I think internet facing is the right answer. We can go with the HTTPS or we can also go with the internal. So these are the right answer. Internal facing, internet facing and HTTPS using SSL. You are a solution architect for a large travel company migrating a server estate to AWS using a custom VPC. They need a public subnet for a web servers and a private subnet for the database and require a minimum of 2 web servers and 2 database servers each for a high availability. So how many subnet you have to maintain for the high availability? So the question is asking for 2 web server and 2 database servers on for the for the high availability. So I think we can go with the option C, that is 4, because one public subnet per availability zone is equal to 2 and one private subnet per availability zone is equal to 2. So 2 is equal to 4. So we can go with the 4. Which Amazon EC2 feature ensure that your instance will not share a physical host with instance from any other customer? Amazon VPC, placement groups, dedicated instance or reserved instance. So what will be the answer? Question is saying Amazon EC2 feature ensures that your instance will not share a physical host with instance of any other AWS customer. So the answer is C, dedicated instance. Why? Because it's run on a hardware and dedicated to the single customer account and ensuring no other AWS customer instance share with the physical host. Okay. Question number 6. Auto scaling supports which of the following plans for auto scaling groups? Predictive, manual, preemptive, schedule, dynamic, and user request driven or optimistic. So we can go with the manual, schedule, dynamic. These are the features which auto scaling group supports. You have created a elastic load balancing load balancer listening on a port 80 and registered with the AWS EC2 instance. Okay, and also listening for the port 80, and the client makes a request to the load balancer with the correct protocol and port. In this scenario, how many connection does the load balancer made? So we our load balancer listening to port 80, register with the Amazon EC2, and also listening on port 80 again. So the answer will be 2, because load balancer maintain a two separate connection for each request, one connection to the client and the separate one of the backend EC2 instance. Okay. How can you connect to a new Linux instance using SSH? Decrypt the root password, use a certificate, use a private half of the instance key pair, or use a multi-factor authentication. We can go with the answer C, using the private half of the instance key pair. The public half of the key pair is stored on the instance at launch, and the private half held by you is used to authenticate the SSH connections. Okay. Which of the following is the Amazon side of the Amazon VPN connection? A, an EIP, and CGP, IGP, and VPG. Answer is VPG. The virtual private network is the Amazon side of the VPN connection, and the customer gateway represents the customer side, and the internet gateway represents the internet. Internet is the customer gateway, and that is the elastic IP. Okay, so this is not the VPN connection side. Virtual private gateway will be on the VPN connection side. This is very easy question. These are all are the very easy question. We are just talking about the basics of the topics. Okay, basics quiz questions. You need to take a snapshot of the Amazon EBS volume. How long will volume be available? It depends upon the provisioned size of the volume, or the volume will be available immediately. It depends upon the amount of data stored on the volume. It depends upon the whether the attached instance is an Amazon EBS optimized instance. So the answer is B. The volume will be available immediately, because after taking the EBS snapshot, you like it will take not taking going a long time to optimize. It depend upon the uh, size, or automatically it's loaded in parallelly, so it remains available immediately, and regardless of the size or data amount, or EBS optimization is will done later. What is the maximum size IP address range that you can have in an Amazon VPC? /16, /24, /28, /30. Maximum size IP range. So we can go with the /16, because the largest CIDR block allowed for a VPC is /16, which provides up to 65,536 addresses. Okay. Question number 12. How long does the Amazon CloudWatch keep metrics data? 1 day, 2 day, 1 week, or 2 weeks? The answer is 2 weeks, because CloudWatch retains the standard metric data for the 2 weeks retention variations of the granularity, but the classic default retention refreshed is in a 2 weeks only. Okay. What is the minimum size subnet that you can have in Amazon VPC? Slash 24, slash 26, 28, 30. So the answer is slash 28. The smallest subnet allowed in a VPC is slash 28. It provides a small block of usable IP address. You create an auto-scaling group in a new region configured with the minimum size of 10, maximum size of 100, and the desired capacity of 50. However, you notice that 30 of the EC2 instance within an auto-scaling group fail to launch. Which of the following is cause of this behavior? You cannot define auto-scaling group larger than 20. The auto-scaling group maximum volume cannot be more than 20. You did not attach a elastic load balancing load balancer to the auto-scaling group. You have not raised your default Amazon EC2 20 for the new region. So the answer is D, because the default EC2 limit per region is 20. Since the account has not requested a limit increase for new region, only 20 instances could launch and the rest failed. Which of the following are the feature of the Amazon Elastic Block Storage, Amazon EBS? Okay, the data stored on Amazon EBS is automatically replicated with the availability zone. Amazon EBS data is automatically backed up with to the tape, and Amazon EBS volumes can be encrypted transparently to the workloads of the attached instance, and data on an Amazon EBS volume is lost when the attached instance is stopped. So the answer is A and C, because data stored on EBS volume is automatically replicated with the availability zones, and for the durability, like for encryption is fully transparent to the attached instance. So there is no tapes in AWS, and EBS data persists through the instance stops. Okay. You want to host a multiple HTTPS website on a fleet of the Amazon EC2 instance behind Elastic Load Balancer with a single X.509 certificate. How must you configure the SSL certificate so that client connecting are not presented with a warning? So create a one SSL certificate with a subject alternative name, sorry, value for the each site website name, and create a one SSL certificate with the server name SNI value checked, and a multiple SSL certificate with the SAN value for each website name. Create SSL certificate for each availability zone with the SAN value of each website name. So answer is A, because SSL certificate is with the subnet alternative name value for each website name. Okay, the certificate must list every website name in the SAN. Since the client connecting to the one of the those names must find it covered by the certificate to avoid a mismatch warning, so that we can use that. Which of the following can be used to address Amazon EC2 instance over the website? Windows machine name, public DNS name, Amazon EC2 instance ID, Elastic IP ID. So the answer is public DNS ID, DNS name and IP address, because these can be resolved to reach the instance over the internet. Neither the window machine name or the instance ID can be resolved into the IP address. Which of the following Amazon VPC resources would you use in order of EC2 VPC instance to send a traffic directly to Amazon S3 gateway, IGW, CGW, VPC endpoint, internet gateway or customer gateway? So we can go with the VPC endpoint, because VPC endpoint for the S3 creates a private connection to the S3 without requiring an internet gateway, a NAT device, or direct connect. So we can go with the option D. You have created a custom Amazon VPC with the both private and the public subnet, deployed a NAT instance to the public subnet with an attached EIP. and added to the route table, instances in your private subnet still cannot access the internet. What may be the cause? Your NAT is in a public subnet, but it's needed to be in a private subnet. You should disable the source destination checked on the NAT. Your NAT has been deployed on the Windows instance, but you other instance are Linux and redeployed the NAS onto the Linux instance. So the answer is B, because we are not going to be deployed a NAT on Windows instance and then on a Linux. So NAT instance must have its source destination check disabled, since by design it towards forwards a like a traffic, then it's not address for these directly itself, so leaving the check enables blocks that forwarding. Okay, so how are you build for elastic IP address? Early when they are associated with an instance, early when they are associated with an instance, based on the data that flows through them, and the based on the instance type to which they are attached. So early when they are not associated with an instance, elastic IP will be there, because there is a small R change only for the elastic IP addresses that are allocated but not associated with the running instance. Associated elastic IPs on the running instances are not separately charged. Question number 21. Your web application needs 4 instances to support steady traffic nearly all of the time. On the last day of the each month, the traffic triples. And what is the cost effective way to handle this traffic pattern? Run a 12 reserved instance all of the time, run 4 on demand instance constantly, then add 8 more on demand instances on the last day of each month, run 4 reserve instance constantly, then add 8 on demand instance on the last day of the each month, run 4 on demand instance constantly, then add 8 reserve instances on last day of each month. So you can go with the option C. See, you can run 4 reserved instance constantly, then add 8 on demand instances on the last day of each month. So reserve instances save money for the steady base traffic that runs full time, while on demand instances flexibly cover the short traffic spike on the last day of the month. A cell phone company is running a dynamic content television commercial for a context. The interactive website offers a personalized content based on the location, purchase history, and the current commercial airing, with the traffic spikes right after each commercial airs. Which architect configures auto scaling to scale out to the spikes while minimizing the cost during the quiet period? So options are: set the minimum size of the auto scaling group so it can handle a high traffic volume without needing to scale out. Create an auto scaling group that is large enough to handle a peak traffic loads, then stop some instances. Configure auto scaling to scale out using the stopped instances. Configure auto scaling to scale out as a traffic instances with the launch configuration, starting a new instances from a pre-configured Amazon machine image. Use Amazon CloudFront and Amazon S3 to catch a changing content with the auto-scaling group as the origin, and scale elastic cache initially before scaling it after the cache is populated. So answer is third. You can do or like configure the auto scaling to the scale out of the traffic increases with the launch configuration, starting new instances from a pre-configured Amazon machine. So scaling out dynamically is like on the each demand we are doing. Okay, so while keeping a cost low by not maintaining the excess capacity or stopped instances during the quiet periods. What properties of the Amazon VPC must be specified at the time of creation? CDI block representing the IP address range, one or more subnets of the Amazon VPC, the region of the Amazon VPC, Amazon peering relationship. So answer is A and C. CIDR block representing the IP address range and the reason for the Amazon VPC. Okay. Elastic load balancing health checks may be a PIN, a key pair verification, a connection attempts, a page request, or Amazon EC2 instance status check. So the answer is a PIN, a connection attempts, and the H page request, because ELB health checks can be on a simple PIN or TCP connection attempt or HTTP page request. Key pair verification and the EC2 instance check are not ELB health check mechanism. What aspect of Amazon VPC is stateful? Network ACL, security group, Amazon DynamoDB, or Amazon S3? So answer is security group. See, because security groups are stateful, data traffic is automatically allowed, whereas the network ACLs are stateless and require the explicit rules for the both direction. And DynamoDB S3, you know, they are the eliminated already. Question number 26. Which of the following will occur when Amazon EBS backed Amazon EC2 instance is in an Amazon VPC with the associated EIPs stopped and started? EIP will be disassociated from instance. All data on instance stored devices will be lost. All data on the Amazon EBS devices will be lost. Okay, and the ENI is detached, the underlying host for the instance is changed. The answer is all data on instance stored devices will be lost and the underlying host for the instance is changed. So answer is B and E, because stopping and starting a EBS backed instance moves it to the new underlying hardware. So any instance stored data physically tied to the old host is lost. The EIP stays associated with in a VPC and EBS volumes data persist. Question number 27. Your instance is associated with the two security groups. First allows RDP access over the port 3389 from a CIDR block 72.14.0.0/16. The second allows HTTP access over port 80 from CIDR block 0.0.0.0/0, where traffic can reach your instance. RDP and HTTP access from a CIDR block, no traffic is allowed. RDP and HTTP traffic from 72.14.0.0, and the RDP traffic over the port 3389 from the 72.14.0.0/16, and HTTP traffic over a port 80 from 0.0.0. So the answer are RDP traffic over the 389 from this IP and the HTTP traffic from the port 80. Because when the multiple security groups are attached to the instance, all of their rules are aggregated together, so each rule applies exactly as written across the both groups. Question number 28. When Amazon EC2 instance registered with the elastic load balancers, using a connection draining is deregistered or becoming unhealthy, which of the following will be the happen? Immediately close the all existing instance to that instance. Keep the connection open that instance and attempt to complete a in-flight request. Redirect the request to the user defined error page like oops, this is embarrassing, or the under construction, like that of messages. Probably close all the collection to that instance after a timeout period, or leave the connection open as long as load balancer is running. So the answer is keep the connection open that instance and attempt the complete in-flight request, and forcefully close all the connections to that instance after the timeout period. So with the connection draining enabled, the load balancer keeps its in-flight request alive and attempt to complete them. Okay, but will forcibly close any still open connections once the draining timeout 300 seconds by default is reached. You create a new VPC in a US East 1 and provision a 3 subnet inside this Amazon VPC. Which of the following statement is true? By default, these subnets will not be able to communicate with each other. You will need to create a routes. All subnets are public by default. All subnets will be able to communicate with each other by default, and each subnet will have identical CIDR block. So answer is all subnet will be communicate with each other by default. You have purchased an M3.X large Linux reserved instance in US East 1A. In which ways can you modify these reservations? Change it to the two M3.large instances, changes to the Windows instance, move it to the US East 1B and change it to an M4.X large. So answer is change it to M3 large instance and move it to the US East 1B. So you can change the instance size with the same instance family or move it to the different availability zone. You cannot change the OS and the instance family.